Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. And keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, folks, here we are on Monday, February 3rd. We're going to take a look at Wulf today. So just to get it out of the way up front, I do have a position in TeraWulf. I'll talk about how that came about when we flip over to the EMAs. But first, let's talk about the chart that we've had for a while, which is what you're looking at. Then we'll take a couple different looks, and then we'll flip over here to Thinkorswim and call it a video. Now, a while back when we took a look at this, we were looking at this uptrend support that had been established and had been holding for quite a while, right? Even though it sort of wrestled with it for brief periods, and came within range of it here on this day where it dropped a bit, a strong wick up from there, and carried on. And now it's getting darn close to that uptrend support again. So that's one reason why I've been interested to take a position to see if that pattern continues. Just keep in mind, all patterns eventually break. So this may be the time that the uptrend support doesn't hold, but we'll see. Also, as I'm sure you're aware, some of the macro events are creating macro forces in the market that may throw, otherwise very good individual stock charts sort of out the window. And they may be reacting to more sort of global issues. But, we'll see. In case that doesn't happen, here's where we are. Now, there is this gap also this day where TeraWulf fell almost 30%. Oof. It left a gap that it would get into if it does fill this relatively soon. It would get into this gap around 552, so a decent percentage up from where it is now, right? About 10% gain to get into the gap at 552, and then it would fill it at another really good gain at 627. So that gets then obviously within sort of fighting range of that 651 that we have on the chart. And so those are the sort of nearest in things that I'm looking for. I didn't want to clutter the chart too much. Obviously, when we were down here, things got very cluttered. I'm actually going to take a few of these off while we're here and just leave some of the sort of the goalposts, if you will, just to keep it in line with the levels that we have above, where there's obviously huge percentage ranges in between, and I'm just waiting to flesh those out. If it does get sort of in a sticky zone or sort of repetitive zone, we can get more granular. But for the meantime, it's close enough to this uptrend support, as well as I hate to say this, the 384 support level, right? It doesn't feel like it's that far away. It did dip down to 413 on this candle, which is, mighty close enough. But to me, that uptrend support is the most important component here. And then that gap fill that we talked about, again, it would get into there at 552 is where, if it can get through 552, it gets into that gap. And we'll see if it then makes a motion toward that 651, which would fill the gap and then be the next resistance level. 1032 as a again, sort of a goalpost, right? That's quite far away. You have all of this action to contend with if it does run through there. But I just wanted to put that there as a marker in case we get some like explosive moves, maybe is sort of like a North Star to keep an eye on. Flipping over here to the EMAs, this is actually why I got into Wulf. Now, I will tell you, I got bagged on this day. So the reasons I'm continuing to hold, even though my setup didn't sort of perfectly unfold, the reason I'm continuing to hold is because of that uptrend support. And again, I might get sort of slaughtered if it falls through there, but so be it. It's I've scaled the size of this trade proportionate to the risk. So if it goes really south, it's not going to be anything catastrophic. So, but as we see back here, before I got bagged, it was in a bearish formation on the short-term EMAs, which is fine, but it was, heading sort of quickly and strong toward this 183 EMA. And if you've seen my EMA videos, I'm a big proponent of bounces off of the 183, which it did twice, right? It put in basically a double bottom at to around the 183. But then ultimately what happened was this day where it dropped almost 30%, and that just pushed it through the 183, and now it's trying to push back and it's find itself there again, right? So it's turning into what I used to call these magnetic zones. The 183 is just that at the moment. It sort of touched it from the top several times, and now it's touching it from the bottom several times. Which direction is going to win? I don't know. But, this is the sort of calculated bet that's being made is, based off of that uptrend support, will that hold? Will it help TeraWulf reclaim the 183 EMA and show us another run like we saw back here, right? Again, that's where it bounced off the 183. It built this run off the 183. It had sort of a near-in range there, right? And these were all bouncing off of or near to that uptrend support that we were talking about, especially back here, right, which is, again, just a bunch of wrestling with the 183. You see, last time it fell through the 183, it was a pretty brief period, sort of in the long view, a couple of months, 2.5 months or so spent there, but it did have a lengthy period of time when sort of, the wheels came off back here. It spent quite a bit of time under the 183, but then it was like a couple months or so, 3 months, and then it regained it, and it put in a much better run, after it regained it. So it's been, really wheeling and dealing there with the time spent above. So we'll see if it has any more gas in the tank or what that looks like, sort of relative to down here at least. Fairly thin-ish volume, but it is, sitting on a shelf right now. So we'll see if that shelf holds. Obviously, it's problematic if it doesn't, and it gets further problematic for the reasons that we talked about here, because that would mean it probably loses this uptrend support. Or who knows, maybe it bangs hard on it like it did over here, or even back here, and gets some lift off. We'll see. I wanted to check the order flow here and just sort of see. So a bunch of large scale coming in today, sort of outpacing the large scales that went out in the last few trading days. So maybe that'll move the needle. I don't know. A bit over a third of total profited shares proportion as of close on the 31st. So that was last Friday. It was the last time that was updated. So that should nudge up a little bit, I would assume, with the decent-ish gain today. But, nothing to really have strong questions on it. I do sometimes wonder, if folks do see a little bit of a nudge in the right direction, folks that are underwater, that 65% or so, do they start to come in and feel sort of comfortable or more comfortable dollar cost averaging down? Maybe that creates some additional buying pressure. We'll see. Honestly, I'd rather see it come from large-scale orders continuing to pile in, but time will tell on that. Now, Thinkorswim side of things, something interesting happening here. TeraWulf does have a decent history of reacting well to TTM squeeze indicator, trigger and fire, right back here. Trigger, fire, and that's when you saw that huge move. And then a brief trigger and fire here, and things got sort of roller coastery and then took off. And then pretty lengthy trigger and fire here. Then you get the big outsized move to the downside that we're still sort of dealing with at the moment. And then trigger and fire here. So it actually fired, as far as I can tell, if I'm eyeballing this correctly, the day after that near 30% drop. And, still kind of wondering to see how that's going to play out. Now, it did, for the moment at least, catch support off of the put trigger for February. So if it can get some legs, it has the call trigger there is at 528. It's the blue line here with a +1 ATR all the way up to 694, right? So that gets through and aligns pretty well with some of these levels that we're looking at here. If it can't, that put trigger is below 426 for February. And just keep in mind, when it did dip below there, what did we say? It came down to 413, but that was in January, and these are February ATR levels. So if it does get below 426. That's the put trigger. That has a -1 ATR all the way down to 260. So that would obviously be pretty painful for the bulls, but we'll see if this trigger and fire amounts to anyone, what it sort of brings to the picture. But yeah, we'll see what that looks like. Did I just say we'll see twice in a row? Okay, I guess that means it's time to call this a video. I hope that your trading week is off to a good start, and as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.